All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our session on AWS Network Firewall. I would like to start with a quote from Einstein. He once said, "Everything must be made as simple as possible, but not simpler." This isn't just clever, but it's very critical for network security. One missed rule, and your network is vulnerable. Our customers face this challenge daily. You ask for simpler security without compromising on protections. We listened and worked backwards from there. And today, we are launching new AWS Network Firewall features that will strip away the complexity and make it easy for you to secure your networks. My name is Amish Shah. I am the product manager for AWS Network Firewall service. I'm joined by my colleague Prashant Kalika. And in this session, we will talk about all the new innovations that will help you simplify your network security and give you the protections that you need. So what's new with AWS Network Firewall? We have focused our innovations in three key areas that matters most to you. Number one, deploy, where we are simplifying firewall setup with native integrations. Number two, discover, where we are enhancing visibility so you can stay secure. And finally, defend, where we are using advanced threat intelligence to give you the protections that you need for your cloud workloads. So throughout this session, you will see how all the innovations that we have launched recently helps you strike that balance of simplicity without creating security gaps. Let's look at some of the innovations that we launched that helps you with the deployment. So our customers tell us that securing VPC architectures can be a complex task. It often requires deploying inspection VPCs and creating multiple route tables, which means now you have to manage all those route tables. It can increase chances of misconfigurations. It can also increase overhead of your operations. And these type of pain points can slow down your deployment, which means there is a higher risk because as you don't move your protections faster, there is a chance someone can act and break into your network. So how do we prevent and help you with features that enables you to onboard your firewalls quickly? And what if you can completely eliminate that inspection VPC and still get those centralized egress controls that you need? That's exactly what we are launching with our latest announcement. I'm extremely excited to announce that AWS Network Firewall now offers native attachment for AWS Transit Gateway. This game-changing innovation simplifies your network architecture and strengthens your security posture. By eliminating the need for creating those inspection VPCs, we make it easy for you to deploy firewalls in a centralized deployment model. And you don't have to now manage the routing tables for those inspection VPC. Next, you can quickly spin up firewalls and configure them easily, which means now there is reduced time to protections. Also, this integration allows you to consistently apply security policies across availability zones. So overall resiliency is improved. And as you have more VPCs that are coming over, you can consistently apply the same security policies for those new VPCs that are being inspected by this firewall. So here I'm showing a sample architecture where the requirement was to do east-west traffic filtering. Say, for example, VPC to VPC filtering. And this can be within a same account, or it can be across accounts. There was a need to use a transit gateway to route traffic between these VPCs. With the new native attachment feature, the network firewall and the connectivity between the transit gateway and network firewall is automatically done for you. And you don't have to worry about the inspection VPC. So the things that you see on the left side here, on my left side, where you have a network firewall and the transit gateway, that is all installed automatically for you, and you don't have to worry about the connectivity. So now, when you go and create a new network firewall, there is an option for you to select the transit gateway you want to attach this network firewall to. You can select the availability zone where you want to deploy this network firewall. You can add multiple availability zones here if you want high availability. Once you do this, on your firewall details page, you will see that this particular firewall is now attached to transit gateway. There is an attachment ID that you can see over there, as well as the availability zone where this firewall was installed. So this makes it super simple for you to deploy that centralized inspection model. Isn't it exciting? Now let's look at some other innovations that will help you with deployment as well as bring down the overall cost of firewall endpoints. We started supporting multiple VPCs for AWS Network Firewall earlier this year. How many of you are familiar with distributed firewall deployments where you deploy one endpoint in each VPCs? There are a few of you. Yeah, so customers use a distributed firewall deployment where you need isolations for your workloads, or if you want to reduce a blast radius and apply specific policies to those workloads in that VPC. So that is still supported and relevant for some use cases. But as your network scales, so does the cost of your firewall endpoint, because the more number of VPCs, the more number of firewall endpoints that you have to deploy. With multiple VPC endpoints per firewall, you can now attach up to 50 VPCs to a single shared firewall, thereby bringing down the overall cost of your firewall endpoints. The rules that are now configured on a single primary firewall can be shared with all these 50 VPCs, and your traffic bandwidth will automatically scale, right? Your firewall bandwidth will automatically scale based on your traffic volume, up to 100 Gbps per availability zone. So let's look at a visual representation on what it used to be before multi-VPC endpoint per firewall. So previously, you could only have one endpoint per firewall in a VPC, which means behind the scene, if you know, there is like a gateway load balancer endpoint that is assigned to a firewall, and you also have a fleet of EC2 instances, which automatically scales as your network traffic volume grows. So there are certain thresholds that we monitor, such as active connections, number of packets, etc. And we automatically scale the firewall to support your traffic volume. So again, as you add more VPCs in that architecture, for every VPC you had in your specific network firewall, which increases cost, increases complexity. With multi-VPC, you can attach all these VPCs to a single shared firewall. Now, how would you do it? So say in this deployment, you are the owner of a primary firewall where you create a firewall in your VPC A in availability zone 1. And you want to share this firewall with different VPCs. And these VPCs can be in same account or different account as long as they are in same availability zone. So you will share this firewall with VPC B and VPC C. Now the owners of VPC B and VPC C will create VPC endpoint association and associate that VPC to the primary shared firewall. When you do that VPC endpoint association, by the way, this VPC association is a new resource type that we are launching with this multi-endpoint feature. So here is how actually you will configure that. So when you go to your management console under network firewall, you will now see VPC endpoint association. This is where you will go and select your primary firewall. You will select the VPC that you want to attach to this firewall and specify other parameters. And once you do it, we will deploy that secondary firewall endpoint in that VPC that you have defined. And you can see all the mappings here in the VPC endpoint association mapping table. Again, you can share primary firewall with up to 50 VPCs. And the way we bring down the cost is instead of paying for the primary firewall endpoint in each of those VPCs, you are only paying for primary firewall for one VPC and secondary endpoints which are deployed in each of those VPCs. There is like a much reduced price on the endpoint hour cost, thereby bringing down the overall cost of your deployment. Now let's look at some of the things that we are doing to help you get additional visibility about your traffic. Traditionally, firewalls require customers to create and maintain their own list of allowed or block domains. And there are several challenges with this approach. By the way, anyone here maintains their own set of allow list to only send traffic to trusted domains? Right. A lot of customers, when they start with just an alert mode because they don't know what should be allowed or what should be denied. So the challenges that we have heard from customer is, they spend hours every week analyzing logs to figure out which destinations should be allowed from their workloads. This manual approach is very time consuming and it is also prone to error, right? Think about it. Effectively managing this manual list at scale in a large organization, it takes a lot of time and you have to keep on repeating this because things constantly change. Also, there is a possibility that because you didn't update that allow list frequently, your rules can be outdated or ineffective, which means sometimes you have very permissive set of allow list which can increase security risk, or your list is too restrictive which can actually block legitimate traffic. And that's where security teams are constantly under pressure to maintain tighter security and remain compliant with business or regulatory requirements, but also ensure that business operations are not disrupted because of the policy. With AWS Network Firewall, you can easily build that allow list. So things that previously used to take weeks can now be done in minutes. We introduced a feature called automated domain list. And here is a sample report of the domain-based insights that you get from AWS Network Firewall. To use this feature, all you have to do is enable the analysis mode, the traffic analysis mode checkbox. Once you do that, network firewall will start inspecting HTTP and HTTPS traffic that is going through your firewall. And you can see a detailed view of the number of domains that were accessed through your firewall, and the frequency on how often they were accessed. Also, number of unique sources that were trying to reach to those destinations. With 30 days of historical data in this report, you now have real insight on where your traffic is going to, which can be used to update your firewall policy. And what is powerful here is it's not just giving you this insight. With one click, you can convert this insight into real security policies and deploy them on your firewall rules. So instead of maintaining manual list, you now have real data of what's going through your traffic, going through your firewall, and you can convert them into policy using the real data that is very specific to your deployment. This feature is available in all AWS regions where AWS Network Firewall is available, including Gulf Cloud region and China regions. So you can now go and generate report and see all the domains that are going through your firewall. To further improve visibility, we recently announced a native new monitoring dashboard on network firewall. Visibility has always been one of the top asks from our customers. They want to see what's going through my firewall, not just to monitor, but it also helps them troubleshoot certain issues that are relevant to their configuration. So with this new detailed monitoring dashboard, you can get a high-level summary of active connections, how many connections were blocked by my firewall, etc. But you also get detailed insights about top talkers. Again, top talkers has been one of the key asks from customers. Like, we had a large customer who started seeing a significant increase in their traffic processing volume from firewall. And they wanted to understand which of my workloads are generating most traffic. Using top talkers insight, you can easily filter traffic based on, say, source IP address to identify which VPCs or which sources are generating the most traffic and sending them through firewall, so that I can now either optimize my rules or charge back to the account owner. Besides that, there are additional insights that are available from this dashboard. So you can here see these are all the domains or the destinations that were blocked by the rules that I have in my firewall policy. Similarly, I can also see which destinations were rejected. So these are the traffic flows that are matching my reject action rules. I also have visibility into my long-lived TCP sessions. So there's a lot more details that is now available to you directly on the dashboard, instead of you going to, say, CloudWatch logs and running your own queries or doing your own log analysis. Additional insights, such as if you want to see what are all the TLS SNIs that are matching my policy or my security rules, all this top X analysis is available directly on the dashboard. And again, this dashboard is available in all regions. If you go to the monitoring page of the network firewall, you'll see a new checkbox to enable detailed monitoring. Once you do that, you'll start seeing all these insights on your dashboard. Question? Yeah.
Is there a charge for it?
Yeah, so the question was, is there a charge for this dashboard? So there is no incremental charge from network firewall for this dashboard. All you need to do is, as you have enabled logging, you can send these logs to CloudWatch and S3. So whatever logging charge that you pay on CloudWatch or Amazon S3, that would still continue to apply, but there is no additional charge to build this dashboard. All right, so Now I'll pass it to my colleague Prashant Kalika to take you through the rest of this session.
Moving on to the defend theme, I'm excited to announce that AWS Network Firewall now offers Active Threat Defense Managed Rule Group. This rule group leverages Amazon Threat Intelligence to protect your VPC workloads against active threats targeting workloads on AWS. Before we dive into the feature and use cases, let's look at various pain points customers are facing on this front. We heard from customers, especially customers who deploy hybrid cloud models. They have challenges with active threat protections, especially in 4 areas. As attack surface widens, they have to constantly deal with evolving threat landscape from various types of network-based threats, cloud-native threats, and 0 days. 2, they have to use multiple tools to detect active threats today, from third-party threat feeds to vulnerability management to SEM and SOAR and monitoring tools. Third, most of these third-party security tools don't have visibility into AWS infrastructure, making it challenging to identify active threats accurately. From constrained access to various AWS resources and entities and network traffic to limitations in log data and quality of alerts. Fourth, they also sometimes have to deal with delayed threat response due to analysis bottleneck caused by multiple dashboards, time taken to create complex custom rules, and managing consistent compensating controls across multiple enforcement points. To address these challenges, AWS has invested heavily on building its own global honeypot infrastructure called Matpot, where we have deployed millions of low interaction to high interaction honeypots and decoys to capture attack TTPs of bad actors targeting workloads on AWS. This real-time data, threat data, is further curated into IOCs and IOAs, such as attack infrastructure IPs, domains, URLs, and threat signatures from various malware communication and known exploit attempts on the honeypot infrastructure. AWS uses this contextual and real-time actionable intelligence to power various firewalls to support active threat protection use cases. To address these challenges, we just launched Active Threat Defense Managed Rule Group on AWS Network Firewall, addressing use cases that protect VPC workloads against active threats. Anybody has used managed rule groups on network firewall so far? Awesome. This new AWS managed rule group, in short AMRs, address 4 key use cases for AWS Network Firewall customers. First, threat protection. By configuring this AMR within Network Firewall policy, you can now automatically block malicious traffic and protect your VPC workloads against active threats. In other words, this AMR will block various active attack infrastructure indicators such as command and control C2s, endpoints, embedded URLs, and malicious domains. The second use case is rapid protection. This AMR will continuously be updated with new rules as and when new threats are discovered, providing immediate protection against active threats. 3, streamlined security operations. Security findings on guard duty attributed to active threat defense as a threat source can now be automatically blocked by using this AMR on network firewall. Fourth, collective defense. By configuring this AMR, you enable deep threat inspection by default, which enriches the existing threat data with additional TTPs from block traffic logs. In other words, the rules are now augmented with precise indicators such as threat signatures and artifacts based on evidence seen within the customer network logs. This allows for sharing threat intelligence from one active threat defense customer to all active threat defense customers. Also, you can opt out of this capability if you don't want this feature to actually process your network logs. Also, this feature is not fully supported as part of this release, but will be available in the next release update. So now let's look at a visual representation of the console or how to get started. So this is the console, network firewall console. You just have to start with creating a policy or updating the policy to add this MR. Within the policy, under the stateful rule group, you can click on action and you can drop down to add manage rule groups. Within that, you will see active threat defense rule group show up with a rule group called attack infrastructure rules. Just check mark that. This rule group is set to default by drop. You can toggle to alert if you wish. Finally, you can add this policy to the network firewall policy. This rule to the network firewall policy. Pretty much 3 steps, and you can add this AMR. Now, there is an additional capability that we have brought to bear as part of this feature is visibility of these rules. Within the network firewall console, you can click on the rule group, and that will provide you additional details and search options. This is the visual representation of the console showing active threat defense rule group details, such as you can see total rule capacity consumed by this rule group, and also you can see the last updated time. You can also look up the threat names and the indicators you are protected against. With this, we end the presentation. Just to recap, we covered features related to deployment such as transit gateway integration and multiple VPC endpoint support. As part of visibility, we covered automated domain list and new dashboard for monitoring. And finally, as part of defend theme, we covered active threat defense managed rule group. All of these new rule groups, all of these new features address various aspects of simplification that are being delivered based on customer feedback. And we will continue to evolve this feature based on your feedback as you adopt these features. Here are some of the call to actions that you can take advantage of. There is an upcoming workshop on securing egress controls to defend against 0 days and ransomware, where we cover some of these features. You can also look up the firewall deployment guide. There's a QR code here that it takes you to the deployment guide, so you can actually get that details as well. And for those who are new to AWS Network Firewall, please talk to your account team about network firewall POC credits, or you can reach out to us at this email.